I had a bit of a moment recently where I realised I was living my life like a to-do list, and the uncomfortable part is it took me a while to notice it happening. From the outside, things are fine, work's going well, I'm working with people I really like, I've got new opportunities coming in, but I just realised I wasn't experiencing any of it. I was always thinking about the next thing. I was defaulting every conversation back to work. I was sitting with friends or family and just not being fully present. And I had this moment a couple of weeks ago. My big sister was down in London staying with me for the weekend, and we woke up. It was a proper Saturday. We did a workout, we had brunch, we went shopping, we were sat in a wine bar just chit-chatting. There was no agenda. We were just mooching and enjoying each other's company. And I remember thinking, God, I've missed this. Because for the last few months, my world had become quite small. It was just work out, more work on repeat. And the bit that's embarrassing to admit, because I talk a lot about building a life where work supports what matters to you, but I'd let work become the centre of everything. And not because anyone forced me to, but I just kept saying yes. So I wanted to do a little bit of a life update because I feel like I'm just coming out of quite an intense period, and I've had quite a few realizations off the back of it. Ultimately, the honest version is things are good, but they've also been quite intense. And I've been thinking a lot about how those two things can exist at the same time. Day to day, I felt like I was just moving through tasks. And then at weekends, I just wasn't really doing much. And I think I just got to a point where felt like I was craving a bit more London time again. I was missing being able to just wander for a coffee, try a new restaurant, go to a gallery. And that's the whole reason I've lived in this wonderful city for 15 years. And I think this is where all of this feeling has come from recently. I just felt like I was becoming a bit, I was just fucking boring. And that's not in a big dramatic way. It's maybe in a quite a subtle way where I just wasn't doing any of the things I love. Yeah, I wasn't going for dinners. I wasn't going out seeing friends as much. There's no spontaneity in my life. And then even when I was with people, I never really felt fully present. I was always thinking about an email or a text I need to send or something I need to do. It was always, what's on my to-do list? What's on my to-do list? And last year I went to an event at the Houses of Commons. It was an all-parliamentary, APPG, what's it called? Hang on. Oh yeah, here we go. An all-party parliamentary group. So it's when all the different political parties get together on a certain topic. And this was about improving practices within the workplace. And I was like, this is so exciting. I'm at the House of Parliament. I bumped into a friend and we both sat in there in the public gallery. And we came out of it and it was about 5 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon. And we were talking about how great it was. And she said to me, yeah, I just have to remind myself sometimes, if I want to be an interesting person, I have to do interesting things. And that has really stuck with me. It's such a great way to look at it. In fact, so much so that about a week after that, I booked a spontaneous trip to New York because I was like, if I want to be an interesting person, I've got to do interesting things. And I really felt like I've lost that recently. Yeah, I think it's quite a strange thing to clock when nothing's necessarily gone wrong, but something feels slightly off. If I'm totally transparent, I have felt like a bit of a hypocrite recently because I talk a lot about designing a life that works for you. And so many of my friends at the moment they're so supportive, and I'm getting these messages. Even today, just had a message from one of my friends. I'm back from holidays and I just wanted to say I'm so proud of you for registering your new business, love you. But the reality is there's just a lot of moments where I've been feeling exhausted, and I feel so far away from this successful person that people think I am. And I'm also someone that I don't think being busy is a flex, by the way. I think far from it. I think we absolutely live in a society where you do this thing where you catch up with people, you're like, how are you? Yeah, busy. Like it's a really great thing, but it doesn't leave any room for creativity or spontaneity or just a bit of breathing space to be able to enjoy what you are doing. And I think the thing that has really got me recently is I actually have quite a lot of autonomy in the way that I live my life, in the work that I do. I can say no to things, and I just haven't been. No one was forcing me to work at the pace I was. No, I was the one that was choosing it. I think part of that is, look, if I'm honest, it's in the phase of work that I'm in at the moment. I'm building something new. I'm still relatively early also into being self-employed, only a couple of years into that, and I'm trying to create momentum in what I'm doing. What I have been doing recently is working in 3-month sprints. I'm going quite hard, knowing there's something at the end of it, like a holiday. In fact, as of today when I'm filming this, I'm 11 days out from a trip to California. I love a holiday, call me Judith Chalmers, and I'm really excited about it. I think I'm going to be doing quite a good job at switching off. The way that my work is at the moment means that I won't have any big looming deadlines. I've been very communicative with all my clients to say, look, I'm going to be away over this period. In January, I started working with Ash, my VA, and we had a really good kind of system where if there was anything urgent, she'd WhatsApp me, but generally we were on top of things together. So I actually feel quite relaxed going into it. I feel like I can actually treat it a bit like a holiday, which in the 2.5 years I've been self-employed so far, I've always been working in some capacity while I've been away. And actually what I'm finding is working in sprints works quite well for me. I'm quite goal oriented, and actually having something to work towards really helps me. But what I hadn't really clocked is what happens during that sprint, because life just has become very functional, and there are a couple of things that have really helped me through that. One is training, lifting weights. I started working with a personal trainer about 9 months ago now. Karen, I just love her to bits. She's absolutely phenomenal. I started off with 2 sessions a week, then we moved to 3, and in a kind of run up to holiday, I'm now doing 4 a week. I absolutely love it. I am not someone that has ever enjoyed exercise, but I really like what it's doing for both my mind and my body. You know, every few weeks I'll spot a little muscle that I haven't seen before. I did the other week, I was in my bathroom and I was putting moisturiser on. I don't know how you put moisturiser on, but I was just like, I just did this twist with my arm and I was like, oh, I can see a tricep. And I sent a picture to Karen. I was like, look at this. And so physically I can see that my body is changing. I feel so much stronger. I live on the 2nd floor. When I run up a flight of stairs, I don't get out of breath. There's just the physical side of it, but also what it's doing for my energy is fantastic. I try and do the sessions before work. So sometimes I'll do 6 or 7 a.m. sessions. And Karen is great because she really, I mean, every workout is different. We've never done the same workout twice. She really listens to what I might need from my body. You know, if I'm on the first day of my period, for example, and I'm a bit more tired, or it's a 6 a.m. session, we might do something that's maybe a little bit more floor based. Or if we are, you know, if I'm in the gym and I'm feeling like raring to go, it's maybe middle of the day, she'll push me a bit harder, or we'll do lots on legs, which absolutely knackers me out. But yeah, it's really, I think, helping me be able to work in these sprint ways because I've just got a lot more energy to push forward. And I think one thing that I found really useful in working with Karen specifically, and firstly, the accountability. I mean, you know, I'm paying for it and I don't want to let her down when I'm getting up. My alarm's going off at 5:30 in the morning. It means hers is too. And also, I'm someone that likes variety, but what I've found is I've been able to stay consistent with the number of sessions, and that gives me structure, which I know is good for me, but the variety of the different exercises and workouts we do means that it keeps it stimulating for me. And then alongside all of this, yes, everything is busy and quite positive, but the reality of being a business owner right now is feeling very real. One of those is because I'm dealing with just an increase in late payments. They've been such a fucking pain in the arse recently. Yeah, I think the reason why the late payments grind my gears so much is because it just feels so unfair, and it goes against everything that I advocate for in the workplace around fair working practices. It feels like there's such a control element to it. And at times it's almost like David and Goliath. I don't know, it just feels like almost like tantamount to bullying. I think I cannot get my head around the fact that you have a contract in place, you deliver the work, it's all signed off, you send the invoice, and they have 28 to 30 days, whatever your payment terms are, to pay it. And then you're just chasing, you're following up, you're waiting for a response. I had a moment recently with a client where the money was expecting to come in. I checked my bank knowing that something should have landed and it hadn't. So when I followed up, I was like, oh, okay, you know, they'll come back and go, shit, sorry, we'll sort that out for you. But no, in fact, I was just told that the accounts team only do 2 payment runs a month. And, you know, they'd actually managed to miss both of them in the time period that my invoice was due. So the outcome was, well, you're just going to have to wait another couple of weeks. And I remember reading that email thinking, well, that's not a system, that's a choice. Because a payment run just means that that's when you've decided to process payments. But it's not some like mythical, like fixed thing that cannot be changed. You know, it doesn't mean that you cannot fix a mistake outside of that. And I think that's the bit that really frustrates me and about late payments and feeling like just a bit helpless. You know, I completely understand that mistakes happen, but when it's been pointed out and there's no urgency to correct it, it just feels quite dismissive. And it, you know, if you flip it, if you were in a full-time job and your salary didn't land on time and you were just told, oh, just wait a couple of weeks, you'd be absolutely outraged. And I'm in a fortunate position where I've got enough cash in the bank to buffer things like I've got to pay out subcontractors for work or suppliers or whatever that is. But if you are waiting on those invoices, that actually is the difference between being able to pay your rent or not, then yeah, it's pretty damaging. And I think we absolutely need to stop normalising late payments and be like, oh, that's just how it is. What I do know is that this problem is much bigger than me. In fact, there's actually been a government consultation recently looking at late payments. It's estimated that 38 UK businesses close every day, and the UK economy is losing £11 billion a year because of cash flow issues linked to this. So yeah, it's absolutely not a small thing. And I think we really need to shift the shame, because right now it sits with that person chasing, or if you call it out, oh my God, you're fucking terrible and you're going to ruin your reputation, when actually I think the shame should sit with that person that isn't paying. Anyway, so it's definitely made me rethink boundaries, how I charge, how I protect my time and energy. You know, am I looking at, I haven't added in late payment fees before for invoices, because in my head I was like, oh, it's just another fucking thing to chase. Yeah, now I'm thinking maybe that's not a bad idea. But let's not dwell on that. Let's not doom and gloom, because at the same time, there are also some really good things happening. So let me fill you in on those. I have just started working with a new client. It's a big retail brand. You'll all know them, household name. I have been working with them on a consultancy basis for a few days a month, and it's exactly the kind of work I love. It's proper strategic work, but grounded in the reality of how things actually get implemented, how teams work together, how we resource, operations, workflow, like creative processes, etc., etc. And this kind of work really matters to me, because I actually think it sits at the intersection of what I'm good at and what I genuinely enjoy. And I remember reading something, or maybe it was on a podcast. It was from Amazing If you're not following along with Amazing If's work, it's absolutely fantastic. Really great career advice and, you know, personal development advice. There was a conversation around how when we have performance reviews, we're always looked at, okay, here's what you're good at, here's where you're weak, and, you know, here's where you can improve your weaknesses. Well, what if we actually just, rather than exerting so much energy and really trying to improve our weaknesses, what if we spend that energy on getting even better at what we're good at? And I love that notion. Like, there's definitely things that I'd like to work on, but actually, how much further along would I get if I got better at what I'm already good at? And it's why in the marketing work I do, I focus on social media. I don't work on the execution, because that's not the thing that I'm good at. What I'm much better at is the foundational stuff, all the behind the scenes and operations side of working in social media. That's really why I think I'm enjoying the work that I do at the moment. And then alongside that, there's a bigger shift happening. I am starting to have conversations about how I moved from maybe fixed client days into more of a lighter touch consultancy, which is really exciting, but it's slightly nerve-wracking, because the bigger projects, they're the ones that pay the bills. So there is quite a tension there. But if I'm honest, I think staying where I am probably feels riskier than making the shift, because I know where I want to go with my career, and a big part of that is what I'm building. I have recently registered my new business, Careering, and it comes off of the back of having, I guess, close to 250 one-on-one conversations over the last 18 months to 2 years now, with people saying, I'm not loving my job, but I don't know what's next. And I absolutely have loved those conversations. In fact, I had one last week that I just came off of that call feeling so energized, because I love the fact that people are so open and honest with how they're feeling with me, but also because I like getting to the end of the call and people feeling like, okay, I've got some actions to take, or I've got a perspective shift that is really helpful. And then what's even more exciting is hearing the follow-up a few months later, or 6 months time, or 12 months time, from people going, oh, off the back of this conversation, I made this decision, or I had that conversation and now I'm in this role, or I've got a promotion, or I've got a pay rise. And that just absolutely makes my heart sing. And I think the whole thing really clicked for me after a conversation with a friend. I distinctly remember it was December 2024. We were sat in Dean Street Townhouse having dinner, and he said, everything you're doing right now, where is it actually pointing? Because I was doing my marketing work, putting out content about careers on TikTok and a little bit on LinkedIn, but it was just going out into the ether and there was no end goal with it. And I realised I just didn't really have a clear-cut answer to what he was asking me, but there was something in my gut. I was like, he's probably right. I probably need to be like building something or directing it somewhere. So we carried on talking, and now almost 18 months later, we're actually building this together. So the concept of Careering is about taking all of those conversations and scaling them. So it's a career design platform, creating frameworks, guidance, resources, and everything you need to help people intentionally design careers around what they want. And I guess I'll be documenting my process in real time, and that's essentially the premise of this channel too. I think it's really important that we look at what success looks like for ourselves and not just what we're told success should be. Yeah, so I guess this is where I've landed right now. I think this And what I'm showing you is just what it looks like building something. There are moments when you're in absolute flow. There are moments maybe where you drift a bit, moments where you catch yourself. And yeah, I think that's actually why I call the business careering, because it's not linear, it's not neat. You can lose your way a bit, but there's such power in catching it in real time. I guess the thing that I've learned out of all of this over the last few months is you don't necessarily need a big reset every time your life feels like it's going a bit awry. I absolutely have a tendency to catastrophize things, and all I needed was a little bit of a pause and recalibration. And now, about to go into holiday and thinking about the next sprint that I'm going to go into, I actually feel really excited because I've started to put things in place where I'm catching things a little bit earlier so it doesn't go awry again. And that's what I feel most excited about. What does the next sprint of the year look like? And I know that that's going to involve more focus on careering and building that business and launching. So maybe that's going to be the next big update I have to share with you. But yeah, I guess I'd ask you, if you are feeling a bit wobbly right now, what is within your control and what is a small shift you can make? Perhaps have a little bit, think about that and let me know in the comments. And if you like this kind of content, honest, reflective, and actually useful, then please do subscribe. It really does make a difference. Until next time, keep careering.